Weber from International Institute of New England. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting us. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming. Tell us about what IINE is. What is your mission, and who do you specifically uplift in our communities in Boston?
Yes, thank you. So the International Institute of New England is a refugee and immigrant services organization, and we're actually 107 years old, and this was our centennial anniversary of our Boston site, because we have 3 sites across Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And we are designed to provide support, early support, to people who are newly arrived in the country. So we welcome people and we help them succeed through a very specific continuum of services that most people need when they're new to the U.S., usually very, very low income. Most of the people we serve don't have any resources. Most of the people we serve are all coming to the U.S. because of persecution and safety issues. So in many ways, forcibly displaced from their own countries. So the continuum of service we offer is refugee resettlement, which I can explain, English language supports, because almost everybody needs additional language skills to get into our workforce, to navigate their communities, et cetera. Employment programming, so we get everyone who is eligible and who needs a job, a first job. And a lot of people are here in the U.S. despite their experience and expertise and their academic experience, they don't often translate into the U.S. workforce, so we just got to get people into the workforce as soon as possible. And then the final programming we have is immigration legal services, which is just more important than ever before, because so many people's status is changing right now.
Absolutely. You know, we're seeing quite a chaotic scene in terms of sort of the immigrant landscape in the U.S. From your experience, what is that landscape right now, and how can we as Bostonians continue to support our immigrant communities that are so vital?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's so interesting in Boston because we have such a strong community, and we're so lucky to have the political support and the support of the mayor and her cabinet here, because the rest of the country is undergoing an incredible change in immigration policy. And I think people would say there's been the need to reform immigration policy for years and years and years. We definitely have experienced that at the Institute, because a lot of our programming is based on what people are eligible for in terms of support, and that's based on their immigration status, which is constantly changing. But the broad challenge now is that so many people who were invited here and are here lawfully and with lawful status and also in our workforce have been impacted by the changes in immigration policy and the general attempt to criminalize a lot of people who are here lawfully. So we have about 90% of the people in our programs this year, and that's about 11,000 people, there's a lot of people, have temporary protected status in the U.S., and that status is vulnerable to shifts in immigration policy, and many, many people in that category are beginning to lose their status because it's being revoked.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, our governments, our programs, our organizations are, especially in Boston, are doing everything that they can to supply resources to these people who are in despair. Many of them are just absolutely, they're afraid to go outside of their homes. What resources do you offer? Can you expand a little bit upon the resources you mentioned earlier and how, you know, those are so vital to our immigrant communities?
Sure, and I would say Massachusetts is unique in the last maybe 5 years in terms of response from people coming into the country under protected status, mostly because we have one of the largest Haitian populations, and we had, even before the last 5 years, in the world, where I think the third largest Haitian diaspora is in Massachusetts and centered in Boston. So we have a huge and vibrant and essential immigrant Haitian community here, and that has allowed a lot of other people who were fleeing Haiti for so many reasons, around the lack of food there, the collapse of their government, the rise of violence, to flee that community and come here. And so we're uniquely impacted, I think, in Massachusetts and in Boston in particular, because there are so many people here who are vulnerable, who are, again, like have been here because they were invited into the U.S. Because our government decided at some point in the last several years to protect them, and now is revoking that protection. But I'd say the most important resources that we offer for people who are new or in this this state of real transition, often very, very, very low income. Most of the people that we serve, they have their shoes on, maybe a coat, and maybe a backpack, but they don't have anything else. The opportunity here, and the reason they're here is because they're here to work, and they're here to really build their life and support their families. So the programming really centers around helping people first find welcome and have someone say, "Oh my goodness, welcome, and we're really glad you're here." So really just to offer that sort of sense of you're in the right place, you belong here, and we're really happy that you're here. And then we really do the basics of what people need. People need housing, people need food, people often need health care. And so we really are setting people up for those different sort of connecting them to those different really basic human needs. And then as we're establishing that sort of sense of security, we also help them prepare to enter the workforce and get into the workforce. Right. So within a very short amount of time, we get people right into English language classes, we get them right into job preparation programming, and then right into the workforce. And some of these jobs are like very entry level. We're talking like dishwashers, some hospitality jobs, but people have to get into the workforce immediately. They're going to need to support themselves immediately. There's very, very few resources, and not even everyone's eligible for the resources from the beginning. So they've got to support themselves from really day one. That's the bulk of the programming that we offer. And then the second step program that is so important now is legal immigration services. So because as people's status is changing, we have more and more people who at the very least need a legal consultation with a professional attorney that can at least explain their options. Right. Because our law was always very complicated when it came to immigration. It's getting even more complicated and even harder to process different types of status. So everyone needs legal consultation.
Right. Yeah. And Xan, this isn't on our sheet, but I'm wondering what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about immigrants?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think what's been challenging for the last 10 years, particularly around the different administrations, is that there's this sort of new narrative that immigrants are criminals. Number one, the entire modern economy of the U.S. and modern culture was founded on people who were not born here at some point, and the generations of people who've come after them. So I would say the foundation is that we are an immigrant-founded society, and the new sort of narrative is that there's something wrong with that. And I think I have a hard time understanding when the average person, decided that we were going to rethink who's American, because for so long, the emphasis of how to build this country was let's let people come here and be American. And it was like you would hear people say, like, you can't go to France and be French, you can't go to Spain and be Spanish, you can't go to Russia and be Russian, but you can come to the U.S. and be American. I mean, it was just such a wonderful, I think, unique and special part of our culture. So I would say right now, the sense that we're not really honest about who's here and why they're here and what they have to offer and the value that they have is one of the greatest challenges. And in our line of work, we serve thousands and thousands of people a year, and they all have lawful status. They are all here lawfully, which means the U.S. either invited them here, literally said, you're a refugee, you're coming here, or once they came here and they said, can you please help me? They said, yes, you can stay here. We'll give you a certain amount of time to be here, and then we'll see, Yeah. But I think that's the real misconception, that there's a sense that people who are not born here are somehow more criminally active than people who are born here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Genuinely, because it is hard for people to understand that.
Yeah.
So I do want to touch on the centennial celebration that went on last week.
Yeah.
You know, your Boston location, like you said, has been around for 100 years, since 1925.
Yeah.
Totally different world, right?
Yep.
What was it like reflecting on all of the impact that IINE has had?
So I've been at the Institute for 17 years and started in our programs, and so very, very, very invested in the organization. But it was so exciting for me to go back to its roots and really understand what I'm a part of and what we're all a part of. And we were really lucky to have a lot of archives that are really robust with the programming and so the experiences people had with the Institute over the last 100 years. So we had a lot to draw on. And I think it was just really humbling to understand that the organization kind of parallels all of the different sort of movements of humanitarian work over the last century, both in the US, but also like New England specifically. And it was very, very heartening to see how welcoming New England has been for so long. And also to understand that when the Institute was founded, we were founded in 1918 in Lowell, and then the Boston program opened in 24. It was at a period of time where there was really restrictive immigration policy. So I think has huge parallels for today, because people kept asking us as this administration sort of got going with its really restrictive policies, well, who are you going to serve? What are you going to do? We have like more people to serve than ever before, and one of the most important reasons that we're here is because of policy, and it's like not despite immigration policy that we need to exist. It's because of it sometimes. So anyway, like I really have found that decade after decade after decade, the Institute's been a part of sort of extraordinary movements, both when it came to like influencing policy and really helping people understand how to support new people, but then also the individuals themselves. And through the centennial, we met a lot of people whose families have come through the Institute, and that is just the most special thing, because there's nothing that sort of demonstrates the American dream as much as having somebody who's like third, fourth generation and so successful be able to say, my parents came and they needed a little bit of help, and your organization helped us, and here we are today. It's like there's a through line between that. So I think not everyone got the services of an organization when they first came, even generations ago, but almost everyone that you talk to had some support, had some welcoming, and someone helped them. And that's really what the whole point is. I mean, imagine going to another country and having no one even explain the rules or explain how to do anything. How long would it take you to figure it out? And how desperate would you be for all that time? So I do feel like the ability to reflect back on our history gives us a really good sense of why we need to exist. And then also like the next 100 years. It's like when we were celebrating last week at this big party that we had, like a big birthday party, we talked a lot about the next 100 years, because it's wonderful to look back, but it's actually, what are we going to do next? How are we going to live as a community? And how are we going to invest in the people who want to come here and be American? Because they're some of the most patriotic people we'll ever meet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please share with our viewers where they can learn more about IINE and possibly find resources? Yes.
So we have a wonderful dynamic website, and actually has a new advocacy webpage to it. So if people want to get involved, there's so many different ways. It's iine.org, O-R-G. And we have lots of information about our work. We have ways people get referred to services, referred to other organizations, and just get a general sense of sort of the landscape, and also kind of break down some of what's happening in immigration policy, which can be really helpful for people to understand.
Helpful. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of confusion going on. We're grateful for organizations like IINE to clear up, the darkness and help people see the light. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Great to be here.